I'm Kevin Buckle, I'm the owner of Avalanche Records. In the 80s, that's when independent music started as indie. I knew I wanted to do something that wasn't an office job, and it was just the right time to do that kind of thing. Sometimes the people who are so passionate about music and have a really all-time favourite band and that, they're not the good people. They're not good people to sell music, because the idea is to have a broad interest in music. So I've always thought music was just really, really important, and I've always liked lots of different bands. So, and as I said, the 80s was a great time. The bands had their wedding presents. The Shop Assistants were a big Edinburgh band in those days. Nick Cave, The Birthday Party. Obviously, you know, before that there was punk. There was all these great bands. The sort of way the music is now, it's very difficult for anyone to imagine what it was like then. In the same way, it's very difficult for me to imagine what it was like before my time with Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and things like that. You can kind of know what it was, but it's difficult to imagine what it was like. The biggest problem with the industry is obviously that it was obvious 4 or 5 years ago that, you know, the way things were going to go. So a lot of good people just got out, quite sensibly, and then some good people stayed behind. I mean, going back to before my time, where it was just full of hippies who were running music shops and had no business sense, but obviously the business was so easy and so good that being a hippie with no idea about business was still good enough. A lot of those shops folded, you know, towards the 70s and the 80s, because they had no business sense at all. All they knew was how to sell Genesis albums, and that was it. The problem now is that there's still lots of great music people out there. But you've really got to have a sense of business and music. It's the same problem with bands and labels now, is that all these bands and labels come to you saying they're a business when they're not. Because it's a skill, it's a different skill. I mean, one or two are, but it's a completely different skill. So there's no reason why, if you're a band or a fledgling label, that you should be good at business. That's the biggest problem, is that people, as they undervalue the skills of selling and business are two different things. I can sell something they want. So it's not like a car salesman who sells you a car you don't want. You know, you tell me what you like and I will sell you something you don't know about that you'll really love. Now, I can do that, but it's very hard to sell yourself. It's easy for me to say, you know, King Creosote, he's great. For Kenny, it's, as an artist, that's not really his job. It's not really for him to go to someone, hi, I'm Kenny, I'm great. That's, you know. So, you know, that's the problem, is that they need people, but they think they don't, because they sell stuff at gigs, and, you know, obviously it's easy to sell it to your fans at a gig, but after that it gets a lot harder. Normally, you know, a band would have a core fan base and then a wider number of people who knew who they were and quite liked them. Now what happens is you have a core fan base and that's it. And some bands tend to milk this core fan base. It can be quite a big fan base. As a shop, it's a real dilemma, because we have a lot of regulars, we have a lot of really, really good customers. But it's not enough to keep a shop like this going. But it's a great base, but what we need are other customers as well, and they're the ones that are hard to come by now. In that they're the people who are more likely to buy online and don't come in. We're very lucky, and we have a lot of tourists and visitors who come specially to the shop. But we do need, like, just casual customers. The thing about tastemaker, it's an American word, that interestingly, the best word, and it's been used by a few music people recently, it's a better word, because tastemaker is more of a London thing, the idea that you play something and you get people to like things. The actual correct word, and that works, is gatekeeper. It means that you're a way into a wider, so as obviously, as I say, if I play something on a Saturday afternoon to a busy shop, that actually has quite an effect. People come and go, that's really good, what's that? Anyone who influences, you know, a number of people is a gatekeeper. Interestingly enough, in the America, when they were arguing against Universal overtaking EMI, taking over EMI, that Martin Mills, who's the head of Beggars, who's the biggest independent, and is now so big and independent, he's probably more important than quite a few of the majors, but he objected, and his objection was that this would give Universal too much access to the gatekeepers. The important people are the gatekeepers, because they're the people who make you reach more people. What people don't seem to understand or realise is that record shops are the gatekeepers. And blogs are not the gatekeepers. Blogs influence other bloggers and those sort of people. It's an enclosed world. It's just like writing for, you know, Dungeons and Dragons Weekly. Don't get me wrong; these things are useful for building up a sort of a starting blocks of getting things going. But when you want to actually reach a far wider audience, there's no point, because regular people don't read blogs. They need to come across things, which is what they do in shops. It's just what we do. It's what a good shop does.
Yeah.
I mean, an ordinary shop or someone that doesn't bother will just put out things that they think people will want, and then they'll come across it and they'll do it. As what we hope is a good indie shop is what we do, is hope they come across things they didn't know they want, but they do want them. It's like FOB. Their basis is to buy something that's quite good but cheap, put it in front of you, and then hope you buy it, so they make high profit. So the idea is to put something that you didn't know you wanted and get you to buy it. But with us it's different. We try and take some small local independent band that we think is really good, and we put that in front of you.
And moving on to Record Store Day, what are your plans in the shop?
It's the usual. We find it something that we really have to try and get through because it's so busy. We've got great in-stores from Glasvegas who are playing here to support the single. We've got Admiral Fallow who are here to support the release of their second album on vinyl for the first time. And that's it. I mean, it really is, it's so busy that your plan really is to get through it all without any disasters. And it's a shame to have so much great stuff in one day. I mean, I'm a great believer that this should be spread out over. There should be Record Store Day and there should be a lot of stuff, but there should be more stuff spread out over the year. There should be something every month. It suits everybody. The truth of the matter is that the bigger, especially the bigger shops down south, the ones who deal with bands all the time now because they're in London, they would rather have one huge payday, once a year. The second-hand shops who don't really stock new stuff because they don't really want to deal with that sort of, daily or weekly supporting music, new music. To them, it's easier again to have a one-off hit. So it's only really the few shops that are left in the middle there, the ones who do regularly support music every week, who obviously would like to have something new every week or every month. Or so yeah, that's the issue. The issue is that this one big hit thing is, and things are obviously too limited. I mean, that's some of the things are too limited, but no, I mean it's a shame. There's lots of great stuff this year, and if we could have divided that up over the course of a year, that would continually bring people into the shop. So maybe next year. There's no future. What happens now is that you, as a shop, if we were to take any band at all and promote them, then come the next album, that band, as all bands pretty well do, not all, there are some exceptions who understand that there's a certain legacy there of shop supporting them, but most will then try and sell it themselves the next time. So you can't build a base anymore, because the actual band will always be looking to sell that second album to their fan base, no matter how much a shop's created it, and that's an issue. So that's why most shops don't bother. I mean, we're quite famous for, and we get bands from all over the world who come here going, it's great the way you support local music. And it's not that in their hometown that shops don't want to support the bands, but it's just very, very hard. I mean, the problem we have here is something that I'd be talking to bands from, say, Brighton 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, they would have big launches. They'd be selling 300 or 400 that album at a gig. Quite big bands. But then wonder why the shops weren't selling anything. It's like, well, because you sold 300 or 400 at the gig. It was an obvious thing, and it's something that's gradually crept into everyone. Or bands who their second album have built up a really good following. As I say, I mean, no one, if they've built up a following by doing gigs, that's fine, But a lot of the bands 3, 4, 5 years ago, obviously a lot of it was done in conjunction with shops, and then they wonder why their next album doesn't sell in shops. You go, because you emailed all your fans and you told them to buy it from you. I mean, we do get some of the most amazing phone calls from quite big record companies and quite big bands who just wonder why they're not selling in shops. And then I say, well, have you looked at your sales figures? How many have you sold yourself? It's not like, where these extra people going to come from. So I think there's got to be a way forward for shops, but because it's time consuming to actually promote new music, if there's no payoff further down the line. It's not like a record company. A record company will sign 10 bands, invest in them, hope one of them becomes really big, and their payoff, that's how they look at it. As a shop, you're not that cynical.